Hey, guess what? This is a podcast.
This is a podcast time.
I am OJ. That's the part of the BroJ podcast that makes up the word OJ. Or am I just
That
the
is
dick?
you.
And then coming to us from Nancat Universe in outer space is
Is the bro. Also known as Brandon.
yay! Well, and now we talk about things. So
And now we have to talk.
words,
Words.
face, high smile.
How are you doing today, OJ?
So it started off with no internet,
Mhm.
and so it didn't work well for me. And then I have internet, and now my whole body system is updating. It's performing all its
okay.
updates, so
Fair.
I'm a little overwhelmed, and
Fair.
but I'm existing.
Understandable.
How are you this morning?
Doing good.
All right, you posted something, some sort of article. I briefly read it
Oh, yeah.
about a thing.
It's about a big time Destiny 2 player that got banned recently. 4-time world first Destiny 2 champion banned by Bungie. So, to give context as to why this person is a big deal, is Destiny 2 has a lot of things like raids and dungeons that come out that come with no instructions. And there's groups of people who race each other to be the first ones to figure out the puzzle and complete it. To the point where it's actually the biggest draw for Destiny when it comes to watching, like on Twitch and stuff like that, to where these groups have like sponsors and stuff like that, and a lot of money actually exchange hands for these events.
Wow.
And this guy,
doing some of those raids just a little bit, even having to look it up, right? Eventually, sometimes we get to that point, and knowing exactly what to do, it's still super hard.
Yeah, it's still really hard, even if you know exactly what's going on. And these people are going in, spending hours from day one when it launches, trying to figure out the mechanics and stuff like that. And they have their professional groups that they run with. And this guy has been in the groups for 4 of the world firsts for raids and stuff. I think 3 of them are raids or something like that, and one of them is a dungeon. But either way, he's one of those bigger icons in Destiny when it comes to that kind of stuff for the higher end content.
Dang.
But Destiny has
but he's
this
been part
thing.
members of a team, obviously.
Yeah,
it's
not
he's the
solo.
only one.
No,
Right,
he's
okay.
He's not a first time solo run person.
Gotcha.
That title's held by other people. But Bungie does this thing with Destiny 2 where when it runs, it actually scans your computer for anti-cheat software.
Right, or cheating software.
Scans your computer for cheating software. Anything that can modify things like memory or different things like that to do the different kind of cheats. But what it doesn't do, the thing that makes it different from other anti-cheats is that it doesn't look to whether it's affecting the game or not.
Oh.
It's just if it's running, period. So if you have something that could be deemed as cheating software just running in the background that's not even touching Destiny, you'll get flagged for cheating.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened to this player. But it was a cheat he was running for an old game that nobody plays anymore just so that he can play it solo, essentially. But he accidentally had it running on the background when he launched Destiny, and he got banned. And so Destiny, he appealed it saying it's not really cheating software, but then it was deemed it actually does modify RAM memory. So it was deemed a cheating software, and there was this back and forth between this player and Bungie. But then it kind of came to fruition of well, this was an accident. He wasn't actually cheating in Destiny, so he shouldn't be banned. But then it Bungie was put in this weird position of, well, do we open up the floodgate for everybody to come up with this excuse for their cheating of oh no, it was for a different game, and set this precedence of you can be unbanned for it, or do we keep the ban on someone who's a big part of the Destiny community and just leave them banned? And so far they've gone with the decision of just Just ban them.
Just leave them banned.
And so I was, part of me is really mean and being like, yeah, if you're dumb enough to leave on a piece of software that's going to get you banned in a game that you know will get you banned in that game, of course you should be banned. I don't care who you are. You're a
Right.
dumbass and should be banned.
Right. It
If
almost
you
it
and
when
if
you
you
say
love
it
that
like
other
that,
game so much, it's like don't there's no game you should play with cheats on.
right? When you say it like that, it reminds you of like celebrities that like don't get as
Yeah.
harsh for punishments just because of who they are.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was curious as to see what your thoughts are on just like
I read part of
on
this.
like cheating, just period of like for older games and for like newer games. I don't know.
The cheat engine itself I've used before. So
Mhm.
there's like I think it was Jump King.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I had was playing Jump King and I was trying to build macros, just a normal like key macro, very simple,
Mhm.
and trying to figure out how to get it to just automate. If I pressed a button, it was symbolized running the script for the first part of the map and doing all these series of jumps. And then someone came on
Okay.
my stream and like, "Is this cheating?" I'm like, "I don't know. Is it?"
Yes.
I'm not trying to like, and I was disclosed like I'm building a macro. Like that was the title
Yeah.
of the stream. Like I'm building a macro to
Yeah.
see if it's possible.
Yeah. But it's like
Um,
that's like the weird gray area of cheating of like it's a solo game. It
right.
there's like zero interaction with other players and you were doing it
I
for
was
that
just
purpose of
seeing if
just
I
seeing if you can like automate something for like the first level almost.
exactly right. And then I think somebody got caught actually cheating using the cheat engine. And so I was like, well, what's the cheat engine? Let's just look at it. And I started reading about it. And you have it run in the background. And then you get into the game and you start doing things. And it logs activity
Mhm.
that's happening. And then what you do is you go back to the log and you can actually have it trigger specific actions to do things automatically. Um,
Oh,
so
okay.
so you can figure out how it codes coordinates and just like eat yourself to a specific coordinate through the map using
Oh,
the cheat
okay.
engine. And that's how it was used in Jump King, for example. And then I had come across people who were modding for The Sims 4. And it's tricky to mod for The Sims 4. There's a lot of tools now that help out, but one of the things was to use the cheat engine to learn how The Sims 4's works so you can make mods for it. And then more recently, when we were playing Pal World and I had a server running for Pal World, it's a very new game. There's only a few things we could sort of customize. We're trying to make it optimal, see if it's something we could do at a LAN party, things like that.
Mhm.
And I forgot exactly what mechanic we were trying to change the multiplier for, but when I looked it up, the recommendations were to use Cheat Engine. That every person playing Power World needs to install Cheat Engine and run this specific script through it, and
Mhm.
voila, there's the fix. So Cheat Engine itself is something I've installed and tried out before, but I imagine that lots of people have. Normal people just trying to mod and do things
Yeah.
like that. And just the fact that it's just running on your computer, to me that's interesting that Destiny 2 just checks for anything running on your computer at all and
Mhm.
not specifically affecting the gameplay. I think that's the line right there that needs to be drawn essentially.
Mhm.
And understanding a little bit about programming, for them to fix it and change it, change their anti-cheat system just on the fly like this, they, I don't know. It sounds like it would be really hard and take a very long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
so expecting them
the
to do it now after the fact is probably a bit crazy to expect them to do. I think it's
yeah.
just stupid that they did that in the first place.
I I mean I kind of agree. It's just that it's so hard to prove that something is affecting the game
Mm,
without it already being a problem.
mm,
So it stops the problem from existing in the first place. And I'm actually
okay,
kind of okay with it
I see.
because in my opinion, as soon as you decide to use a tool like that, whether it's for like a totally, like, for lack of a better word, wholesome reason of like modding like a single player game, or like doing things with just your friends or something like that, that's not affecting the community as a whole, even if it's just for that, the fact that you've agreed to use a piece of software that's cheating, I think at that point you've forfeited your right to complain about any other game catching you and getting upset that you're using that.
And if I remember right, when you install it, there is a huge warning of like, this is cheating. You can
Yeah.
be banned from communities by using, like, there is a warning like that when you
Yeah.
use it. So it's not like anyone's using it and not knowing
Yeah.
that it could be
Yeah.
interpreted that way.
And so to complain that you messed up and got caught, even if it's for cheating for another game, it's like
Yeah.
if I had that installed and I knew Destiny was doing that, I'd be so hyper aware and careful about having that launched or being used at all if I launched Destiny. And if I messed up, it'd be like, well, that's what I get for f***ing around with something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Like sucks for me, and it's, but it leaves I think it leaves too many opportunities for cheaters to run more rampant and get away with cheating if they don't do something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. I agree with that.
And
And
so, yeah.
I think I agree with the idea of them not lifting the ban right now also. Like sticking to this and probably sticking to it for a while. I also, though, on the other hand, believe that there should be some sort of window of appeal to things where you could,
You don't think
you
it should be a
know,
permanent ban?
right, like maybe it should be for a few years or something like that, and then have an
Okay.
appeal that happens. And the appeal, because, like, right, this is the sort of thing that happens in prison, right, where people,
Yeah.
I think OJ Simpson had that happen, and that's why he's free now.
Yeah.
Right, because that he was just able to, it's a whole story, but like the
Yeah.
person that he was accused of stealing from in Las Vegas was actually one of his very good friends, and he wasn't the one that pressed charges. It was just some other
Some
stupid
other
guy in the
person.
room that was like, "We got robbed," and it was a whole mess.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone had this vendetta, right, against OJ Simpson for getting away with murdering his wife. That they're like, "Oh, let's just use this."
Yeah. Yeah.
But the appeal specifically, it was I think it was like in 2019, or something like that.
Okay.
I watched the video of it, and essentially, like, everyone that accused him wanted him to go free of the robbery that happened in Las Vegas and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So they just finally like let him out. So sorry, I digress, but like,
No.
you know, obviously it was a mistake, but he has to be. They can't just, right, let him go because of who he is and because of the circumstances. They have to hold the system of justice
Mm-hmm.
against him for a period of time.
Yeah, I could see
Um,
that not being a permanent ban and being like after a few years. Yeah, I don't know if you do that in like in levels, like if it was like super blatant cheating, whether you would
right,
hold that period longer, and if it was something more like this,
right, because there's like
I
a
don't know if you
difference
could get away
between
with
like
that.
manslaughter and murder, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to remember this now that, because I remember when I installed it and was playing around with it, I was like, whatever, I don't care. Who's gonna ban me? I don't care. What can I
Destiny
get
will.
banned from? Oh, well, whoops.
Yeah, if Destiny scans it, they are ruthless with it.
Jeez. So be cautious.
Yeah, and I don't know of any other. I guess I probably haven't looked at a lot of other games this closely, but I don't know of a lot of other games that do it that harshly. Of like, just if it's running on your computer, you're in trouble.
Mm.
But
So
I would assume there's others.
what about and I haven't looked into it too much because I'm not concerned about it, but it
Hmm.
sounds like you and Wes are probably a bit concerned about the anti cheat system in Helldivers 2.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it super closely, other than I know that it's a rootkit type of anti cheat,
Okay.
which means if there's a mistake, they pretty much have access to just kind of like delete my OS. that's like the level of access they have to your computer with that kind of anti-cheat, which is, I mean, they're obviously not going to try to do that or anything
Right,
like
but it could
that.
happen on accident.
But it could happen on accident of like some developer accidentally puts in some code that like accidentally navigates to a wrong file and runs a different piece of code that would normally safely
Reset
delete
something.
X and X in the game, but like suddenly have access to a file system it shouldn't be deleting in, and all of a sudden I've got corrupt OS files that I can't recover, and my computer's almost bricked of like having to just like start over everything.
Oof.
When it comes to OS. And so it's a little bit, just because I know how easy it is to make little small accidents like that in programming, allowing something that has that kind of access for a mistake like that to happen is really scary. Because I don't believe, I'm not like paranoid enough to where I believe they're going to try to like mess with my system or like spy on my files or like do all this like malicious stuff. But I just know how easy it is to make a mistake, especially overworked, tired game developers to make a mistake like that. Of like,
yeah,
I don't know. It makes me really nervous.
I wonder if there's like a right way, or if there are good anti-cheats, and I'm not familiar at all, so I'm just curious if you are aware of like other anti-cheat systems that like are commonly used that seem to be okay. I remember back in the day, I think there was one called, was it GameSpy?
Yes, GameSpy was anti-cheat, I believe.
And I remember for a long time, it actually caused a lot of problem. Like, not, I couldn't run some games because GameSpy was like, no, you just can't, because something's running on your computer, and like games would crash and just stop working.
Yeah,
and I could never figure out what it was that was ever doing it. It wasn't very specific, and it was just like there's some games I bought and then just never play because GameSpy was like, nah, we don't like you.
Yeah, I think it was like it had to do with the way the game was like launching in the environment it sat in after launching and that it ran in. If it was like an environment that could be easily accessed by like a hack or whatever like that, GameSpy was like upset and would, its anti-cheat was just to not allow an environment where a cheat could be access the game or something like, it was something like that.
Sounds like a lot of really crazy techniques for anti-cheating that aren't, because in my mind, I can't imagine them. In my mind, I feel like when you're creating the game, there's ways to like log the behavior of someone who's playing it and like track like if they're doing something like trying to shoot through walls, or if they're getting nothing but headshots all the time. Like, I would feel like that, like, things that are symptoms of cheating, right? That those would like trigger like, okay, let's see what's running, what's affecting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just that I think a lot of those require the human element to be added. Of like, we triggered and we're suspicious that this person's doing this. So now it requires the human element of a human has to go in and look at it. CSGO did that.
Oh?
As far as I understand. Or I don't know if it was just CSGO. I think it might have just been CS in general around the time of Go. But it was, I think they had a little bit of a flagging software, and then they had the flagging that players could do to each other. And then they had an employee base that would look through that slowly, but then players could also get something in game for going in and reviewing it for CS:GO, for Counter-Strike. Like a player could be certified, or like, I don't think it was certified, but they could basically go in and check footage to see if they were cheating and give their own review on it to make it easier and like allow people to get, because like sometimes you're just doing really well, and if you're doing really well, you can look like you're cheating.
That's true.
It's very easy for that to happen, which is why that kind of detection is hard to fully justify. For it to just automatically happen, because you can just have moments, because a lot of people when they're cheating don't have it on the entire time. They'll turn it on in spurts. So they'll be playing the game normal, and then all of a sudden they'll want to just win this round. So they'll turn it on for a couple seconds to like quickly kill guys right here and then turn it off to hopefully get away with it, so to speak. So they'll have like spurts of like suddenly being really, really good. And that can just happen normally. Like all of a sudden you can just be like in the moment and like land 6 headshots in a row and clear out the enemy as if you were wall hacking, but you were just having like an insane moment. So
okay, I could see that.
It's hard to like just auto detect that.
Yeah.
Without the human element looking at the footage. And even then I think it can sometimes be hard. But
okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
it's a really
sense.
tricky problem. And I don't know enough about it to give my opinion on like which way is better and more effective.
I guess it does make sense though to take the same sort of approach as antiviruses, right? Where they have a virus signature database and they just scan for those things. Like I guess that's essentially what they're sort of mimicking. And I guess it makes sense because that's effective to a degree.
And it's not like it's 100% because there's still like
right.
there's still cheaters in Destiny, but it makes it a lot harder for them to do it. And I mean, most of that software is not being used for a non-malicious intent anyways when it comes from the view of the game development world. Whether you're just modding or doing stuff, most companies don't want you touching their files or messing with their games, period.
Like modding, yeah, I guess there's some like games that don't want people modding their
I would say most games
at all.
Yeah. They don't want you doing that stuff, period. So why would they complain if another game is blocking those people and making them frustrated of not using that software for them?
Okay. I'm curious though. Now I want to talk about something else that I think is maybe debatably cheating or not.
Okay.
Looking up walkthroughs on the internet.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm remembering a time where there were specific like programmers would put like cheat codes into their game like Doom. Where you could enable God mode, right? That's very intentional. But if you use it, is that cheating?
No.
Right? So it's cheating, but it's not cheating. It's not cheating the game developer because it's intentional, but like, are you truly playing the game the way it was intended to be played?
Well, that's because, in my opinion, the word cheat code has changed over the years. Where, like, back then, like you're saying, the developers purposefully put these things in. And I think nowadays, those cheat codes would be called game secrets. It's a secret in the game that you can find that changes your experience and does something funny and goofy. Like, I immediately go to 007. Okay. How you get like the fat heads and like you could shoot paintballs. They were cheat codes that you could discover or like activate with something like Game Shark, which was essentially the cheating software for Nintendo 64. It's essentially what that, but it was
right. And they were like all on board. They're like, yeah, here, cheat.
Yeah, here's our cool little secrets that like make you just want to play our game more. Is essentially what it's doing because you've beaten the game, and now here's another funny, weird way to play it. Play our game more, get more of your friends involved, more of your friends want to buy the game. But it's in my opinion, those things nowadays are just like game secrets that people discover.
That always upset me when I would play something like a game and then someone else is able to just speed through it and it turns out they were using a cheat code. And I go, oh, that's cheating. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, that part got a little frustrating for me. So I think I had very early on like a bad attitude towards looking stuff up for video games. From the very get-go, I was very much always against it. And then it became more and more acceptable, more and more popular, where you just look up guides if you can't figure something out. And
there's almost just no discovering it for yourself anymore.
Right, and they just walk you through it. And I guess there's some people that are still like, right, they don't want spoilers, so they don't even watch other streamers. They don't do anything because they don't want the spoilers. So I guess this is in that vein. Not wanting to cheat their way through it and experience the game the way the developers wanted it to be experienced.
Yeah, yeah. It's more of rather than going off of someone else's experience and already knowing how to do it, just going in blind and wanting to.
Now, what
Yeah.
about? I'm sorry, I'm going somewhere. I'm just taking
No, you're
ideas
good.
one step at a time. So now, I think it's gotten to a point where games are now being developed with that in mind that the player is going to look it up. So we don't have to put that information in the game.
Oh,
Like
okay. In
something
what
that
way
sort
though?
of comes to mind is I guess this is most recent of Diablo 4. You've got to wander around the map looking for these little statues to interact with, the little shrines of Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
And when you activate them, you get a it improves your stats permanently across your whole account. And but they're everywhere. There's like I don't remember exactly. It's like 400, but it's like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they're some of them are super hidden to the point where like how would you keep track of which ones you found, where you found them, how many you've already you can find it keeps track of how many you've found, but like it would be insane to be able to find all of those without even looking it up. I looked it up. There was an interactive
Fair.
map, right? And I was like, "Oh, here's the interactive map," and you can just check them off online as you find them, and then keep going through.
But that's not
And
a new thing.
right, this isn't new, but that's just the most recent example I could
It's
think of.
it's a very console thing, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's a console thing that made its way to PC games because console games made their way to PC games. So
Oh,
like the earliest example I can think of off the top of my head is Banjo Kazooie
okay.
from N64. The little Jinjos, I think is what they were. They're these little creatures that are just hidden all over the place across the
Oh,
map. And
okay.
some of them are extremely hidden to where a only a 12-year-old who has no money for other games and wants to and can only play that game all summer because their mom won't let them buy another game, plays 600 hours of that game and knows the map back and forth and is exploring every nook and cranny, will eventually find them all to 100% the game. And so it hits
Right.
that realm of like achievements and 100%ing a game that consoles kind of drove towards, of like you play through the game, now scour the map, jump everywhere you possibly can, get into every little nook and cranny you can on every map to try to find all the 100 little hidden secrets. We'll tell you how many you have and how many you found, and sometimes we'll tell you how many there are, but you need to go try to find them, and you won't find any help unless you have a friend that knows, or you find the PC Magazine guide for the game and buy that, and then that will tell you.
Oh,
So I
maybe
don't know. I
that's
I
what
don't know if you
influences it.
remember the PC Magazine game guides. That was the walkthroughs back in the day.
Oh, they're just trying to make more money for so people buy guides.
That's how it was back then.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like I remember having the coveted N64 and Zelda game guide. And so
Okay.
typically you had like the friend that had the guide. And so you'd all gather together at someone's house. One person would bring the guide. You'd be at the friend's house who had the game, and you'd all work together of like someone sitting there with their face in the guide being like, okay, now you need to go over here. Like, I don't see it over here. And you'd be like, well, this is the picture shows it's over here. And you'd like go over there and you'd try to get over there. Like, well, how the hell do you get up there? And it didn't quite make sense from what you're reading. And so you try to figure out how to get up to the little ledge that they're telling you to get to like beat the game or find the secret or whatever it was.
Interesting. So this comes from like the 100%ing thing and finding and
All the little secrets, so like all the little voice tapes, all the
achievements.
little statues, or to get the achievement of like you found all of them, and then eventually you 100% the game. And I think that concept
Okay.
has morphed its way into a lot of just regular PC
I
games, so
was
to speak.
wondering where that came from because I remember quite a while ago, suddenly on Steam, there was this achievement stuff. I'm like, what the hell are these achievements and who cares about these?
Yeah, so on X,
And
I
I've
think
never been an
it's
achievement hunter. I've always
yeah.
just like I'm gonna play the game, but like there seems to be a large amount of people who are into that, and I'm like,
So on
okay,
Xbox, I could be wrong. Internet, I'm sure you'll come after me, but I believe it started with Xbox. And
okay,
if not, Xbox is the one that made it popular. So an
hmm.
achievement was typically tied to points. You'd have a gamer score
Oh,
on your account. On your Xbox account, you'd have a gamer score. And if you got an
hmm.
achievement, your gamer score would go up. And for a long time, most games had
Oh.
1,000 gamer points that you could get. And if you got all 1,000 for that game, you've 100% of the game. And so there's actually world record holders for like people who hold the most gamer score on Xbox. In fact, some people will go buy cheap, stupid games because the achievements are so easy just to up their gamer score. Like there's people that have like hundreds of thousands to like millions of gamer score points. And that's their like
Xbox?
drive to play the game. And so like the bragging part as like a kid in the Xbox world is that my profile shows that I have 10,000 gamer score, or like I love Halo so much that I have 1,000 pointed the game. Haha, take this.
I have
love
like a level
Halo
in
more.
Steam. In Steam, it keeps track of like some sort of stupid level. I'm like,
it's kind of a
what
copy
point
of
is
that.
this is stupid.
It's kind of a mimic copy of that. Yeah. And then PlayStation did the trophy system because they couldn't do achievements. They couldn't call them achievements because of Xbox. And so it kind of all stemmed from that like point system and achievement system from Xbox that kind of turned into these collectibles. Like collectibles and 100%ing the game from like early N64 days morphed into achievements in Xbox, which morphed into this whole like trying to create a point system or like some kind of cool incentive that you could use to show off how well you've done the game or how well you've, I don't know, mastered the game, so to speak. And then it's just kind of morphed into just always being things.
Missed that entire part of gaming culture somehow.
And and it created this game that a lot of games replicate when they release something of like, you're good at the game and you've done all the things. Congratulations. Let's give you something else to hunt for that's really hard, that is really satisfying to find. And it's extra satisfying when you don't look up the guide, but can be just as satisfying if you look up the guide. Like I remember the feeling of, there was one in Destiny. I can't remember which expansion it came with, but you had to essentially find all these little trophy things hidden around the map. And I did it without a guide.
Ooh.
Somehow.
There was one in, was it whenever they started it was probably like one of the first expansions too, where you have like the one planet, you go into like the infinite forest for the first time. I remember there being something around the map there that you had to like find lots of, and then eventually unlock something. You unlock a little NPC in there that was like his own store or something like that.
Probably. But it's stuff similar to that. And it's actually really satisfying when you're able to find them all and be like,
yeah.
I mean, like I got like a cool banner that I would put on my Guardian and be like, it was my little badge of honor of I did that really cool accomplishment. But it kind of stems from that like point system of having that on your account of like, who's this guy who just one-shotted me? I keep going back to Halo because that's just a staple from the Xbox days. But like, who's this guy who's just like destroying me in Halo? Look up their profile, and all of a sudden you see their gamer score. I'm like, oh my gosh, they play lots of games. They're really good at games. They've 1,000 pointed this game. Oh my, they're good. And it was kind of like this show-off badge kind of a thing to other people that you didn't even know.
Okay. Huh. I am so uncompetitive that like this just foreign to me. But I could see the appeal of some of that for sure.
Yeah.
I think another part of this is, if I remember right, it was Lost Ark. Did you ever play any Lost Ark? I think it was Lost Ark that did this, where like, when you got gear, maybe it was.
Which one's Lost Ark? I don't remember that. I'm thinking of Ark, but Ark is a different one.
No, Lost Ark was like, it was like an MMO, but it like came out of.
Oh, is that the one where the mounts were such a big deal and to be able to do anything? And yeah, I played Lost Ark.
Yeah. And, well, there was like aspects on your gear that was like fury. This increases your fury by 2. And then you're like, what is that? What does that have to do with anything? Mm-hmm. And like, there was no way of knowing unless you like dug into your character's stats. And then you had to like, even then it was like, well, what does this really mean? And you had to look it up online. And I feel like there's lots of things like that, where lots of games that have been built where you actually just have to look things up online to really understand what they truly mean. And look up builds to go, okay, here's how the community's using this to build them together. Because if you're just playing in-game on its own, there's not enough information there to do it completely and understand what's really happening.
Yeah, and for those games, the developers are really feeding to those people that love digging in and figuring that stuff out, probably assuming that they'll post information and the casual player can either just won't care or will look it up.
Or just look it up.
Because
Yeah.
I've been on the other side of that where really obscure information, and I had a ton of fun digging into it, figuring it out. I've only ever done that with one game. It was Wayward Terran Frontier.
Okay.
Like I was in on the early alpha, and there was no information about any of the components, and I was like I had spreadsheets and like notebooks of like I was taking notes on like the different ways like energy was transferring through the conduits, like what the most efficient amount of like injectors into the engine to get the most output to like get the shields, and I was like,
Oh,
I was going ham on it, and
yeah.
I was the person making videos for other people to watch to then figure it out.
That's actually a perfect example. I remember we played Star Maid together, and like
Mm.
it was so hard to figure out how the energy system was working, and we had to look it up. And we're like, oh, it has to do with the volume of each axis of where
Mm-hmm.
the energy cells are. I'm like, duh, there you go. And that's just one of those things that somebody figured it out and put it on the internet so everyone could know.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
but it does feel like a lot of modern games are kind of building towards that to like try to appease those people that love to do that, dig into that stuff, and not spoil it for them, I guess, so that they can figure it out.
hmm,
But then just rely on the community of like posting information for
okay,
anybody else. I could see
okay.
developers building towards that.
So you think that's why some information is left out like that, is to appeal to those gamers? Okay,
I think
that makes more
so.
sense.
Because those gamers are the ones that are dumping hundreds of hours into their game.
Hmm.
And it creates a, I guess, kind of an free advertisement online for their game as well, because it's just more videos out there about their game. And so if they make that part of it fun for those people, there's more videos out there trying to explain it, which I don't know, kind of self-advertises. And I think a lot of the younger gamers have fun looking it up.
Just have
And
fun looking it up. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because they haven't experienced being forced to not be able to look it up. And so they don't know that like gratifying feeling of like figuring it out themselves, or if they just don't care. But I think some of them just really kind of enjoy the almost mini game of searching for the information you're looking for on the internet.
Oh man, this is tearing my world down. By the way,
I'm
everything I was
sorry.
like,
Am I destroying your perspective on games?
yes, this is really effing with my brain here. Because I always felt that if you have to look anything, if you ever look anything up, it's just cheating. It's blatant cheating. But now I'm starting to sort of, when you put it into that perspective, that like, and not just cheating, but like really bad game design. I always felt if I have to look something up, that's super bad game design.
Oh, okay.
If I have to go in and figure out these weird calculations and get out a spreadsheet to figure out how much damage I'm really doing, then I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's bad. But I can see now that it's for a specific type of player, and the other players should just look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes a game can go too far with it and hide too much information from the user and make it so that the people who just want to play and don't care to look up anything up, it just frustrates them out of it. And I think that's bad game design. I think there's a happy medium of like some information is hidden as something you kind of just got to figure out or look up, and some of it is blatantly shown to you and to the user. I think there is a happy balance that some games mess up, and that's frustrating in bad game design. But I think there is very much so a place for that stuff in games.
Interesting. Okay, makes me feel weird, but I'll cope with this.
Oh no, I've ruined I've ruined gaming for OJ.
I'm done uninstalling Windows,
Everything.
uninstalling computer.
Yeah, it is just kind of like a weird. I feel very uh, blessed and fortunate to have existed in both eras of gaming, and not been just stuck in one or the other, especially not stuck in just the latest of like back when the internet wasn't really a thing that you could go up and look things up on. Like I existed in that world and experienced that side of gaming, and I've experienced the more modern. I feel very lucky that I wasn't in just one or the other, like a lot of the newer generation is.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes the newer stuff, I don't know, funner and more understandable.
Yeah. Is it more satisfying when you can figure something out, right?
Yeah, and I
A
think
little.
yeah, and I think it because I have a problem that irritates some people
Okay. Ooh.
where I oftentimes would prefer to just ask someone rather than Google it. Like
Okay.
I know that person has information. I know I could save us both a conversation and possibly the headache of talking about it by just Googling it, but I'd almost rather just ask you to give you the satisfaction of being the person on the schoolyard who knows the information about the game and is willing to tell it.
Interesting.
And it brings me back to those days of like, at face value, I'm just going to believe what you said and spread that across the schoolyard. And if it's false, then that falsehood is the new truth that I'm going to spread around to everyone I possibly can until some ding dong who decided to Google it proves me wrong. Like, I don't know if you remember things like that of like, oh, if you go over here to this thing, this will
I remember
happen, and
you
nobody
telling
could
me
prove you.
weird things that you know are wrong. That's what I remember, and saying it very convincingly. You're like, you have to hold your tongue sideways when you press the button, or it won't work.
Or, but then I'd follow it up with a more convincing one of like, well, if you hold EF and go to the left or whatever, then it'll work. And it's like, oh, but is he telling the truth on this one? Maybe
Yeah,
like
is he
it's
telling the
just
truth
convincingly
now?
enough.
And then there's
Yeah.
the times it's happened once or twice where you're accidentally right. You're just completely bullshitting, and then you're just accidentally absolutely correct.
I make a really strong educated guess and be like, okay, there's a 50-50 chance this is right, and I have more credibility of messing with their heads in the future.
You're a monster.
That's my favorite. Because oftentimes I'll know just enough about the game to be like, it's probably this, and so I'll just spew it off as fact, even though
Yes.
even though I haven't played the game at all. Like my
Yes.
favorite, there was a moment when you were playing a mod for Minecraft,
This sounds right.
and I had just seen enough gameplay of the mod that I knew what was happening in the mod. Like I'd watched other people play, I'd never played it. That I knew some of the like the key terms that most people would be like, well, he'd only know that if he played it.
Right.
So I started. You were just like in Discord, like out loud talking about what you're doing, and I was giving my opinions and facts about what you should do next. And I think it lasted about a day before you just started completely ignoring everything I said about that game.
That sounds familiar. Yes.
Uh,
You're
yeah.
playing Feed the Beast, and it's like, all the mod packs are in there. And you're like,
Uh-huh.
well, you're using thaumaturgy and whatever.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're using the one where you have the computer and the PDA in your hand, right? You're like, oh yeah. There's no way
Yeah.
you would know that unless you play this mod. I'm like, yeah, so go do this, this, and this. And you're like, oh, okay.
What you need now is to go mine nether quartz. Okay.
Well, and then you'd ask your opinion. Well, do I need nether quartz or should I go for this other mineral? Which one would be better? It's like, well, that's a toss up. I think I'd go for this, and I'd just be completely bullshitting.
And and it's because I won't look things up. I wait as long as I can to look something up. Well, okay. When it comes to games,
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait. I'll try to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And your advice was like, okay, I'll take your advice before I go look it up for real.
That's just waste hours of your time.
But to go back to the idea of like asking someone or looking it up,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like career wise, or like, because I remember being very traumatized at one of my jobs where I went to ask someone a question because I knew they would know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, what did you try? I'm like, well, I tried this and this and this, but I know you know the answer. So just tell me the answer. And they're like, why don't you go look it up and see if you can learn about it? And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And it happened a couple of times where I'd go and ask them to, like, it got pretty toxic, but essentially they didn't like anyone coming to ask them questions, period. And we were
Yeah.
just always had to just look things up and try to research it and figure it out ourselves. And so that sort of ingrained in me this idea of that, like, I shouldn't ever go ask somebody a question unless I've, like, read the entire internet first.
Dang. Yeah.
Which is now, I'm realizing, is a huge problem, because there's times where I will spend way too long on my
Yeah.
own researching or studying something and then going, oh, well, I don't know, I should just go ask. And that's something super stupid and simple that was just like tribal knowledge that like the internet wouldn't know.
Yeah. And I think there's a healthy balance there that guy messed up of like you want someone to like have a little bit of, self motivation and being able to figure stuff out themselves a little bit, but like you only hit your head against the wall so long looking on the internet before you should just go ask somebody and be willing to like help that person.
Yeah, yeah. He screwed me up.
Yeah, he messed that
And,
up.
and only recently have I figured out that this is a weakness of mine. So now I'm like, okay, I just need to get better at asking sooner.
Mm,
Just learn enough just so I can ask the right question and then go ask.
yeah.
So speaking of work and jobs, I'm I'm recently out of a job, and I went on LinkedIn
Hmm.
to update my profile, and you can set your status to be like open to work,
Hmm.
and then when you do that, it's like, okay, well, what kind of jobs are you looking for? And you can say, if it's remote, what location, what's the job title.
Hmm.
And so, oh, a job title. What job am I looking for? And it says that it will just send you emails, notifications anytime there's any job postings for this.
Yeah.
I'm
Setting
like,
up a job alert kind of thing.
wouldn't it be funny if I just completely shift gears and go straight into AI? So I just type in AI, and there's one of the things is head of artificial intelligence is a job title.
Head
So I'm
of
like,
artificial intelligence.
head of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And I'm
Interesting.
like, that's the one. I'm going to I'm going to be head of artificial intelligence.
There you
And
go.
so that's the new job title I'm searching for.
Nice.
So when job recruiters go and look at my profile, it'll tell them that I'm looking to be.
You hit the head of AI, artificial intelligence. Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard of that title before.
But I'm getting there are job postings though. I've been getting emails. There aren't a lot, but every now and
They're
then,
out
yeah,
there.
they're out there. Head of artificial intelligence at some companies. I'm like, okay, maybe I should go for this.
That
Um,
that world's a struggle.
yeah, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. So there was a topic I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Um, completely shifting gears.
Okay. I'm ready.
See if I can remember why. Okay, was about role models, and if you have had any strong role models, essentially in your life.
Hmm.
For me, not a whole lot of role models in my life that I went, yeah, I want to be like that person. Um, I would say the first person I ever discovered like that is Johnny Knoxville from Jackass.
Okay.
And I remember he was the first person I think I ever was like, first famous person I was like, this person's actually kind of cool.
Hmm.
And like all the adults, like no one's ever stood out to me as like someone I thought was like, oh, this person is interesting and cool. I kind of like the way they live. I want to be like them. Because when I
Hmm.
saw the Jackass show, I'm like, yes, this is the way. And I
Fair.
started with my friends. We get out the camcorder and we'd ride our skateboards off of rooftops and do stupid stuff.
Hmm.
And I started. And he is not the man to model your life after, right?
Yeah, probably not.
My joke was after that was essentially that Johnny Knoxville was my Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
And It's he
Nice.
really did shape a lot of why I do stupid things and extreme things.
Hmm.
Um, because just that mentality of having no fear and just doing things to try to get attention was what fueled a lot of my personality as a young person. So I'm curious if you have any sort of role
I
model or something like that.
Yeah, I can't say I have anybody that just like as a whole person, I was like, I want to be like them. I've never had someone like that. I have had people where like bits and pieces of their personality in their life, I was like, yeah, I want to be like that.
Hmm. In this one aspect.
Yeah, in this like one aspect, they're my role model for this aspect of their life. But never just like this person. I shouldn't. I don't think anybody goes everything they are. I want to be like them. But like a majority of like their life and the way they live, I've never had someone that I've like, yeah, I want to be like this person. Just like as a whole, it's
It's a
always
hard
been
thing
little.
because,
It's
like,
been
yeah,
little tidbits of like. There's been too many things of
okay.
like, well, I don't like this part of their life. I don't like this part of their personality. The way they're living like this sucks. I don't want to end up like that. You know. So yeah, it's mostly just been little tidbits of
I
a couple
think that
different
there
people.
are very, very few male role models that are like any good at all. And so, like, there's
Yeah.
been others like Brad Pitt is someone that I go, you know what? He's handsome. I'd love to be as handsome and as strong as him, and he has some pretty good charisma. But
Hmm.
it's like he has serious alcohol problems, and he's ruined some of his marriages. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, is he truly a role model? He's definitely someone who's like kind of want to have some of those aspects, but not the others.
Yeah.
I
And I
see.
I find that the more when it comes to famous people, kind of like actor kind of role models,
Uh huh.
it's less about the actor and more of that specific role they were playing that turns into kind of like a mini role model
Ah, okay.
for me. And I
That
also
makes
see that
sense.
for other people, some other people too. It's less about the actor itself and it's like they say Brad Pitt or whatever, but they're really talking about Brad Pitt in X movie is kind of their role model or whatever.
Yeah, in Fight Club.
Yeah. That's their role model.
Brad Pitt in Fight Club, he's my role model for sure. It's Tyler Durden. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Fight Club? Okay, now that we got to the Fight Club topic, that's all I was really trying to get to.
Okay.
No, just kidding. but but honestly, I remember when I first watched Fight Club, I'm like, it was a deeply spiritual movie for me. Have you ever seen Fight Club?
I have.
So I don't know what other normal people get out of it. If they
Uh-huh.
just like the coolness and the fighting and the edginess of it. But to me, there was lots of like quotes in there that like spoke to me on a spiritual level. Like, you're
Mhm.
not your khakis is one of the phrases, right? He'd say,
Okay.
"Look, you're not your khakis. You're not the things you own. The things you own end up owning you." And saying things like this to me were like, "Oh my gosh, that's so true." I'm not my shirt. I'm not the way I present to people, right? I'm not the things I own. And that
Mhm.
was something that like just to this day is like something that I always go, "Oh my gosh, material things don't matter that much when you really think about it." And
Yeah.
it was that movie that taught me that. I went and read the book too, which I also like. It's quite different, but also just as good.
Yeah, I and now that you say that, a character actually does come to mind
Okay.
that like had a ton of quotes that really spoke to me like that. And the character almost kind of did become a role model of like I would actually kind of like to be that person.
Okay.
And it's from the cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender. Do you remember that show?
Okay. Yeah,
Like
I watched
I
it
really love that
once.
show. And there's a character called Uncle Iroh.
Okay, yes.
And it's like that's not I'm not like new or unique or special for thinking him as a role model or like an amazing quote person. That's like anybody who loves that show thinks the same thing pretty much.
I remember this guy.
But he like has so many great quotes like that of like there's there's like a part where one of the main characters is like trying to figure himself out and he has like this heart to heart with the guy of like you need to figure out what you want in life. who you want to be rather than like letting anybody else try to determine that for you. And like has all these like quite like profound, there's like a lot of YouTube compilations out there of just IRO quotes because they're all just like, no, everyone should really kind of hear this quote and think about it. But that was that character, that kind of show for me where it had lots of quotes like that.
So it's interesting that like these are male characters, right? That we have sort of gravitated towards. There's also been some female characters for me that I think I go, okay, yeah, they're a bad. One of them that comes to mind is Ripley from the Aliens franchise.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She is just so cool. She's one of those women where I'm like, she has so much courage. She runs directly into danger. Like when I think of like a bad as far as like fighting and stuff, like I think of her. Like she fought aliens and was not afraid to face them head on. Right, they're the most terrifying thing in the universe. Yeah. As opposed to like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character in Predator. When I compare those two, which are very similar, I prefer Ripley. I prefer the female. I just liked her more. And I think there's a lot of female characters like that. Like there is the one in Terminator. I forget what her character's name is, right?
Sarah Connor?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Sarah Connor, yeah. And a more funnier one is Sandra Bullock in, what was it called? Speed 2, Cruise Control. Where there's a cruise Speed 2 Cruise Control, where it's a cruise ship that sort of gets hijacked instead of a bus.
Yeah.
But at one point she's trapped in one of the lower floors, and she just, was it a chainsaw or an axe? All I remember is her just getting like this axe, just start wailing on this wall. I'm like, yeah, what a badass. She's trying to escape. But like, those female characters also, awesome. I still feel just as connected to them as I do the male characters. I still view them equally as Tyler Durden in Fight Club. Like, these are characters that have really good morals, really cool things about them that I still idolize. So I think that my perspective is that it doesn't matter if they're male or female. I think it's funny that like a lot of social media, there's some agendas out there, right, of trying to get someone that represents you, like a person that's, right, a middle-aged white male. I don't need to have a middle-aged white male in a leading role for me to go, oh yeah, I identify with this guy.
And actually, to be honest, most of them I have like the opposite effect for me. Like, I don't want to be anything like them, and I don't like them at all. Maybe not like them at all is too harsh in a lot of movies, but like I wouldn't even for a second think of them as a role model. Someone who's like that perfect demographic and age range to most relate to me just does not relate or speak to me at all.
Yeah, there's been lots of times where I see men that are very similar to me and I just cringe. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, I want to tell the whole universe, this doesn't represent me.
Stop and
this does not represent me. Make him stop.
Oh, you froze.
Oh, did I? No, you froze. Uh-oh.
You're cutting in and out.
Something stopped. You too. I think the internet is telling us we're done.
You're losing some kind of connection.
Hello? 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 Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now?
And OJ's internet has died, maybe?
Can you hear me now?
He's still connected to the Discord.
Can you hear me now?
Am I going to have to close out this episode because we've lost OJ?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Brandon, are you there? Oh, no. Does he close out the episode without me? Brandon? Hello?
Who wants to make bets as to whether...
Brandon, can you hear me? Did you lose internet?
Yeah, everything on my entertainment app.
Let's text him.
Okay, I guess I'm stopping this.
You...
Bye. Thanks for surfing in. We are the BroJ podcast. and it's all over.
If he responds with yes, I'll just do a little outro for us. OJ, look at your phone. Okay, he's lost internet. That's fine. We're talking about role models. Lots of different role models out there. I can give us a little cheeky outro. Thanks for coming and hanging out with the podcast. Abrupt end, but I think it ended around the time we were going to end anyways. Maybe we'll pick up and wrap up the conversation in the next episode. Who knows? But essentially, role models, you don't have to find the one that's perfect for you. And I agree with him in saying that there is a lot of opinions out there for the need to find one. But you just don't need to be afraid to have one that's like, if you're a guy finding the exact male role model, it could be a female role model, it can be whatever the hell you want it to be. It could be an animal character in a movie for all anybody cares, as long as it inspires you to do something cool and inspires you to live your life better. But either way, we'll see you guys in the next episode. This was a finished episode, and we'll see you later. Bye.